Kindness, authority, focus, visionary. These are the 4 types of charisma in Olivia Fox-Cabon's book, The Charisma Myth. And just like a recipe, each type uses different ingredients, different vibes. It can help us thrive in different situations, all while staying true to who we are. If you're new here, I'm Sanjeev. I'm a cognitive scientist from UC Berkeley and a magician, looking for evidence-based ways to communicate and connect with the people in our lives. Today, we're breaking down 4 recipes for charisma, their pros and cons, and exactly when to use each one so that we can be charismatic in any social situation. We'll start with something sweet for our first recipe, kindness charisma. The main ingredient for kindness charisma is warmth. It connects with our hearts and makes people feel cherished and completely accepted. Think of people like Oprah Winfrey or the Dalai Lama, or even people in your life who have this aura of love, right? Which filters through every interaction we have with them. So where does kindness charisma come from? In the charisma myth, Olivia explains that it starts internally with a mindset of warmth, because feelings like compassion, self-love, they're impossible to fake. They gotta be there for real. But once we've got the internal side down, that warmth manifests externally through our body language. This kind of charisma is in the eyes, always crinkled and sincere. It's in our smiles, genuine ones that look like pure joy. And most importantly, that joy is passed on through touch, handshakes, hugs, even a pat on the back. Berkeley professor Dacher Keltner is an expert on this. I took his class on happiness, and his lab has researched crazy stuff, like how NBA basketball teams with more touch would win more games. Imagine being the guy that had to count. 394 fist bumps, 395. Pros and cons. Kindness charisma comes with many strengths. It shines in scenarios where we want to create an emotional bond, where we want to make people feel safe and comfortable. Maybe we're catching up with an old friend or going on a first date. It's also great in tense situations, when we're dealing with an angry customer, a frustrated roommate, or a heartbroken friend, right? All situations that call for empathy and acceptance. But kindness charisma also comes with its weaknesses. The first is in situations where we need to show authority, when we're in charge of a team, or when we're in a group project with a bunch of slackers. In these situations, a kindness charismatic would usually listen to everyone, or be very understanding, make sure everyone's in agreement, and yeah, that doesn't always work. The second weakness is a bit more subtle. In her book, Olivia talks about a friend, let's call her Liv. Liv radiated kindness charisma. So wherever she went, people would become enraptured with her. Colleagues at her workplace, cashiers at the supermarket. Which sounds great, but these people would naturally feel hurt or resentful when Liv couldn't make room for them in her life, when she couldn't reciprocate, which would make Liv feel so guilty. And that's the second weakness, because unconditional acceptance is something people get so rarely, you know? So when they do get it, they can easily become over-attached, even if that attachment is not reciprocated. We're switching from sweet to spicy with our second recipe, authority charisma.
But the truth is, your balls are in my fist. Now, I apologize if that image is too pansy for you, but I'm comfortable enough with my manhood to put it out there.
The main ingredient for this one is power. The belief that someone has a high status and the power to affect our world. So authority charisma makes people feel impressed, even intimidated. Not gonna lie, I don't love this one. Seems a bit icky to me, I don't know why. But think of people like Simon Cowell, or dictators like Stalin, Mussolini. I'm not trying to compare Simon Cowell to Stalin, I'm just saying that our reaction to them comes from a similar deference to authority. So how do we decide who's an authority? Well, according to Olivia, this charisma type is very dependent on appearance. Check out this 1955 study, okay? Researchers found that people were more likely to follow a jaywalker who was dressed in an expensive suit, sooner than they'd follow a jaywalker who was just dressed in casual clothes. In other words, we'd literally break the law and walk into danger if someone well-dressed did it first. Nice. We're always looking for signs of expertise, like a doctor's white coat, or signs of high authority, like a military uniform. These are explicit ways of communicating status. But we also look for designer brands, suits, even fitness level. These are all indirect ways of communicating status. But appearance isn't enough. We could have all the branded clothing, all the status signals in the world, but we have to be secure deep down to have the right behavior. Olivia points out that authority charismatics take up space with their posture. Chin up, shoulders back, no fidgeting. She calls it standing like a gorilla. I'm not kidding. Pros and cons. The advantage of authority charisma is that we're listened to and often obeyed. So it's great in business situations and fantastic during a crisis when you need people to immediately follow directions. But this charisma type maybe comes with the worst weaknesses. First off, it's just not really likable. It can feel arrogant or bossy, like Simon Cowell. I rest my case. The other weakness is that it discourages other people from thinking on their own. It's kind of compelling them to blindly follow. So if we want to inspire creativity or we want to get constructive feedback, authority charisma leaves no room for other voices to be heard. We got sweet, we got spice, but our third recipe is a little different. Focus charisma. Maybe it's umami or something. I'm really pushing this cooking analogy pretty far. Unlike kindness and authority, the main ingredient for focus charisma is presence. It comes from being fully present with someone, absorbing everything they say. So this charisma type makes people feel heard and understood. Think of Cillian Murphy or Elon Musk, right? They're not prototypically charismatic. They're not too talkative or funny, and they're kind of awkward, but they have an incredible ability to make you feel seen. Like you're the only person that matters in the entire world. So how do we give others that feeling? Well, obviously it comes with focus, being focused during a conversation and communicating that in two key ways. The first is through active listening, verbally letting someone know, hey, I'm paying attention. Easiest way to do that is with what's called back channeling. That's the, oh yeah, bad. Like these kind of small meaningless utterances that cue to someone that we're following along. But focusing with our words is just not enough. At least not on its own. I'm sure you've been in a conversation with someone who is saying all the right things, right? Wow, that's crazy. But their head just wasn't in it. That feeling comes from their body language, the second way we communicate attention. Now, this could be from external things like our phones. Look at research from 2014, which found that our friends feel less empathy from us when we're holding a phone while talking to them. And it's the same if the phone is visible, even if it's just sitting in the table in front of us. But body language could also be physical things, like angling our body towards the other person or keeping eye contact while listening. Pros and cons. This type is great for business situations when people are getting to know each other and need to share important information. But it can also be helpful in diffusing toxic conversations, where it's important to understand exactly what someone's saying and exactly how they feel. So yes, focus charisma is great at presence, but it's missing the spicy and sweet from our other two types, power and warmth. Olivia says that if we have presence but not enough power, focus charisma comes across as too eager. Like we're a suck-up, just too invested in the other person. On the flip side, if we have presence but not enough warmth, this focus can feel too intense. I used to make this mistake a lot, where I would be listening so intently, asking so many questions, that one of my friends told me he felt like he was being interrogated. Like he wasn't really getting to know me at all. And we're closing our cookbook with the fourth recipe on our list, visionary charisma.
The Jericho.
This one makes people feel inspired. It makes us believe. Think of the vision of Tony Stark, Michelle Obama, or Steve Jobs. Sounds like a strange remake of The Avengers. I'd watch it though. This charisma type might be the toughest recipe on our list because the number one ingredient is our message. We can't fake it. We need a bold vision, a goal, a dream. And visionary charisma comes from believing in that dream confidently, with no self-doubt about what's possible or what we're capable of, which is kind of tough for me to accept. Like even with this YouTube thing, of course I have self-doubt. Of course I don't know if it'll work out, but there's no body language technique here, nothing. We just gotta believe in a dream and tell people about it. And just the way we carry ourselves will start to inspire the people around us. Pros and cons, I think you can guess, but visionary charisma is great when we're leading, when we want to inspire people to work towards something. We see this in tech businesses like Salesforce, which has tens of thousands of employees around the world, but the visionary charisma of its leaders keeps every single employee aligned, working towards a united goal. But the weaknesses of visionary charisma are when it's taken to an extreme. That's when it can inspire fanatical belief and lead people to disastrous decisions. It's why sociology professor Janja Lalich notes that cult leaders are often incredibly charismatic, with a clear vision for the followers of their cult. And even if it's a good cause, visionary charisma taken to an extreme is not the most empathetic. Again, think of Steve Jobs. He was notoriously feared inside Apple. He was kind of a douche to his family because when the vision comes first, there's no room for anyone else. So as we talked about all four recipes, you probably clicked with one of them. Or you're like me, you're choosing between two, kind of like a little fusion dish. But now that we know what we like, we shouldn't pick a recipe that clearly opposes our vibe. If I'm a kind and smiley person, I shouldn't pull a 180 and try authority charisma, because the people around us can feel it if we're trying too hard to be someone we're not. And a recipe is just a list of ingredients that we need. Okay, I gotta be more warm, I gotta be more present in conversations. This video is the actual cooking. Breaks down 3 habits, one for presence, one for power, one for warmth, and all the exercises and research to take our charisma recipe to the next level. We'll talk soon.